We know that food prices are still stubbornly high. I just met with families here for whom paying the bills is not always easy. As they told me, groceries remain a huge part of their budget.
If you are the 30-year-old stuck living in your parents' basements because the Liberals have doubled housing prices, if you can't fill up your tank with gas, if you're among the 4 in 5 families that have cut their diets because they can't afford food, the last thing you would want is a tax hike on your paycheck and on your energy use. Will the Liberals therefore cancel those taxes?
Do you know how much 2 heads of broccoli cost in Canada? $11.44. Yes, you heard that right. And it's not just groceries. Rent, gas, and everyday expenses are spiraling out of control. People are working 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to afford a basic lifestyle. For many,
I'm Samantha Louise Emery. I'm working 2 jobs right now, so one full-time and one part-time, but I need both of them to pay my bills every month, my rent and groceries, so just working all the time.
For many, living in Canada has become impossible. Just a few years ago, a 2-bedroom apartment in Toronto cost around $2,400 a month. Now, that same apartment will set you back $3,300, a 25% increase per year. In Vancouver, it's even worse. Across the country, rent has been rising faster than wages, making it nearly impossible for most people to afford a decent place to live.
Mass immigration without having like services in place. People coming sold on this amazing life that we have, but a lot of people that are coming here are seeing like can't afford rent.
And it's not just rent. Food prices have skyrocketed, and millions of Canadians are turning to food banks just to survive. In fact, over 2 million people needed food assistance in a single month. But why is this happening? What has changed? Canada was once seen as a land of opportunity, offering a high quality of life, affordable housing, and a welcoming atmosphere. But today, things feel different. We're facing a cost of living crisis, a housing crisis, and an immigration crisis, all at the same time. So, how did we get here? What went wrong? And most importantly, is there a way out? Let's take a closer look at why living in Canada has become impossible. If you feel like your paycheck doesn't go as far as it used to, you're not imagining things. The cost of everything in Canada has skyrocketed. It's not just groceries. Everything is getting more expensive, and Canadians are feeling the squeeze.
Back in the day, you used to go to the cheaper stores and you'd save a lot of money, but not anymore. T-bone grilling steak for $14.52.
Whether it's rent, utilities, or everyday services, costs are rising much faster than wages. Finding an affordable place to live has turned into a nightmare, with people paying hundreds, sometimes thousands, more than they did just a few years ago. But the housing crisis is such a massive issue that we'll come back to it later in the video. And then there's food. A few years ago, a cart of groceries for a small family might have cost $150. Now, over $250 for the same items. A single block of cheese is $15, and people are paying $7 for a loaf of bread.
12 eggs for $17.49. That should be illegal.
Over 2 million Canadians had to turn to food banks in just 1 month. A shocking statistic in a country known for its prosperity. Then there's gas, utilities, and services. The cost of heating your home in the winter has jumped 30% or more in some areas. Internet and phone bills? Among the highest in the world. Insurance? Through the roof. So why is this happening? The simple answer? Inflation is out of control. While wages have gone up slightly, they haven't kept up with the rising costs of housing, groceries, and basic necessities. And the government's response? Raising interest rates, making mortgages and loans even more expensive. People are working longer hours, taking on multiple jobs, and cutting back on everything. Yet they still can't get ahead. So when people say Canada is becoming unlivable, they're not exaggerating. The numbers don't lie. And housing, one of the biggest struggles, deserves a section of its own. If you think rent prices in Canada are out of control, you're absolutely right. Across Canada, rent has skyrocketed by 20–30% per year, while wages have barely moved.
$900 a month to share not even a king, where you can comfortably put a pillow barrier, a queen-sized bed with someone.
If you're earning minimum wage, you'd have to work 80+ hours a week just to afford a one-bedroom apartment. Buying a home? That's a fantasy for most people. In cities like Toronto and Vancouver, you now need to make at least $200,000 to $250,000 per year to even qualify for a mortgage. That's 2 to 3 times the median household income. Even in smaller cities, the price of homes has become completely unrealistic for the average person. And it's not just about money, there simply aren't enough homes available. Thanks to decades of underbuilding, Canada is millions of housing units behind where it needs to be. New construction can't keep up with demand, and the surge in immigration has only made things worse.
But the thing is that people figure out where they're going to live. You know, there's already pressure on the housing market right now.
So where are people living? More people are cramming into tiny apartments, sharing spaces meant for 1 or 2 people. Students and workers are living in basements, garages, or even illegally converted storage rooms. Some landlords are renting out bunk beds in shared rooms for $500 a month. A mattress on the floor costs $300. Canada is supposed to be a developed country. So why are people living like this? With the cost of living this extreme, why is the government still bringing in record numbers of new immigrants? Let's take a look at how immigration is making this crisis even worse.
And things like immigration. You know, Canadians traditionally are not opposed to immigration. You know, we're a country where many people, almost everybody, came from another place.
It's no secret. Canada has always been a country built by immigrants. But in recent years, the government has pushed immigration to record-breaking levels, and the system simply can't keep up. Let's look at the numbers. In 2022, Canada welcomed over 400,000 permanent residents, a record at the time. But the government didn't stop there. They set even bigger targets: 465,000 newcomers in 2023, 485,000 in 2024, 500,000 in 2025. That's nearly 1.5 million new permanent residents in just 3 years. And that doesn't even count the millions of temporary foreign workers, international students, and refugees. In total, Canada's population grew by over 1.2 million people in a single year, faster than any other country in the developed world. The problem? Canada wasn't ready. There aren't enough homes, schools, hospitals, or jobs to support this kind of rapid growth. The housing crisis was already bad. Adding over 1 million new people a year only made it worse. And while the government claims most new immigrants are economic migrants, the reality is more complicated. Many newcomers struggle to find well-paying jobs, leading to more competition for low-income housing, higher demand for food banks and social services, increased strain on healthcare and education systems. Public opinion has shifted dramatically. Just a few years ago, Canada was one of the most pro-immigration countries in the world. In 2018, about 66% of Canadians believed immigration was good for the country. But in 2024, 58% now believe Canada is taking in too many immigrants. The reality? It's not the immigrants' fault. People come to Canada for a better life, just like generations before them. But the government failed to prepare for this rapid population growth, and now everyone is suffering. So, what is the government doing about it? Can Trudeau fix this mess? Let's take a look. For years, Justin Trudeau and his government have defended Canada's record high immigration rates, claiming they were necessary to fill labor shortages and boost economic growth. But as the cost of living skyrocketed, public opinion turned against him. So, What has the government done to fix this crisis? First, they denied there was a problem. When Canadians raised concerns about housing shortages, the government insisted more immigration was the solution, not the problem. When food prices soared, they blamed corporate greed instead of their own policies. And when people demanded change, they dismissed it as anti-immigrant rhetoric. But as public outrage grew, they were forced to act. In 2024, Trudeau's government launched the most ambitious housing plan in Canadian history. They promised to build more affordable housing, introduce rent control measures, crack down on foreign home buyers. But many Canadians weren't buying it. And then came the biggest policy reversal yet. Trudeau finally admitted the government made a mistake. In early 2025, the government announced a plan to reduce immigration over the next 3 years, in an effort to stabilize population growth. For many Canadians, this was proof that the government had completely mismanaged the situation. The same leaders who once said Canada needs more people were now scrambling to slow down immigration.
We are here today because Canada is broken. Our kindness and generosity has given way to naivety and weakness. We do not want to be taken advantage of, tricked, lied to, and sold out by those we trusted to lead us.
And with the 2025 federal election approaching and Trudeau's announced resignation, the future remains uncertain. Will the Liberals recover, or is this the beginning of the end for their leadership? Either way, the damage is already done. So, what does the future of Canada look like? Where does Canada go from here? Even with the government's new policies, the damage is already done. Rent and housing prices won't suddenly drop overnight. Groceries won't magically become affordable. And millions of people are already struggling to keep up. The reality is, fixing this crisis will take years, maybe even decades. Experts suggest some possible solutions. Massive investment in affordable housing to meet demand. More restrictions on foreign homebuyers and corporate landlords. Better immigration planning to ensure Canada can actually support new arrivals. Higher wages that keep up with inflation. But will the government take these steps? That depends on what happens in the 2025 election. With Trudeau stepping down, the question now is, will his successor follow through on his promises? Or will a new leader take a completely different path and try to undo the damage? One thing is certain. Canada has changed. The dream of affordable living, stable jobs, and a high quality of life is slipping away. And unless real change happens soon, living in Canada might become impossible for even more people. And here we are. Thank you for watching until the end. This video took a ton of research to put together, so if you found it interesting or eye-opening, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, and it really helps push this video to more people. Plus, let's be honest, Canada isn't getting any cheaper, so subscribing is one of the few things left that's still free. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested, check out one of these other videos next.